Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dalaran, and one of the exciting parts about World of Warcraft is the brand new classes that Blizzard could come up with for future expansions. An MMO is nothing without its class systems. When you create unique, diverse, interesting classes that play in different ways, it draws different kinds of people to these classes, to these different roles that these classes embody. And I feel like it is the ultimate form of creativity and creation in an MMO. World of Warcraft has released a new class just about every other expansion. Back with Wrath, they came out with Death Knights. Back in Mists of Pandaria, they came out with Monks. And now in Legion, they came out with Demon Hunters. In BFA, we did not get a brand new class. That means with the next expansion, Fallen in Battle for Azeroth, we are most likely going to get a brand new class added in the game. So in this video, I want to talk about 5 potential classes that I think personally Blizzard could add into the game. At least 3 of those ideas I'm pretty sure you guys have heard floating around somewhere on the internet, maybe through videos, maybe through forums, but 2 of them I feel like are very unlikely, but personally I would like to see something like that happen. The first class on the list is going to be Tinkerer. Let's get those popular ones out of the way. So why would Tinkerer be a possible class? Well, ever since I saw the trailer with Legion where Mechatoric is empowering himself in a big suit of metal armor, walking around in a mech, actually fighting demons and being all crazy about it, I thought this was a possibility for Tinkerers to become a thing. And when they added islands, they also introduced a bunch of different groups, different coalitions that will verse you on these islands. One of the most annoying coalitions is going to be, what I would guess, is the Tinkerer group. Either the all-known group of engineered tinkerers running around in mech suits with turrets and lasers and zappers and everything, or if you're Alliance, you're looking at the Goblin group with their mechs, their bombs, and their turrets. We actually could see what those guys do in the islands, and I guess they are the Tinkerer archetype that we're to expect maybe in the future. They run around with turrets, dropping them down, a lot similar to what Shamans used to do way back in previous expansions. Kind of a mechanic that maybe we can revive. Of course, the mech suit would be very interesting, maybe either as a permanent thing or as like a demon form for Demon Hunters, where it's a temporary buff that allows you to be super tanky, extra tough, and do a lot more damage. They also have medic bots running around spewing healing goo on their allies to heal the wounds, so you can have in a sense like pets that can help you heal, which would be very interesting. You have grenades and possibility to add cast time, so there's grenades for massive explosive effects or even crowd control. Like imagine a polymorph grenade or a gravity grenade to move the enemy to the side or knock him back. And of course these guys can even have certain unique abilities like nature-based shock batons. So you don't have to be a ranged class completely, like if, in case you want to get a melee, you sort of bash an enemy with a big bear paw or stunning them with a hammer of justice raining from the sky. You simply take out a shock baton that you engineered with a bunch of bolts and screws and batteries and just zap the enemy, stunning them in place for a moment and making them slowed after that stun. Something very unique to this class, almost like this scrapper, right? Almost like this, well, Tinkerer. You come up with different inventions in order to help you fight against impossible odds. I feel like that idea would be insanely cool for future of BFA and future of the game. The next class on the list is going to be Necromancer, and this one at first I thought, well, why do we need a Necromancer? Technically we already have the Unholy Death Knight. It's a plate-wearing DK with a lot of strain damage, but you do have diseases, which is what you expect for a Necromancer, and you do have the Undead Army that you can raise, which again you expect from a Necromancer. But then I went around digging online to see what other people have had for the ideas for the Necromancer, and I found an old Wikipedia article that somebody put out of possible ideas for what a Necromancer could be, and I loved it. So while I don't really know exactly how a Necromancer would work in detail, what I do know that the Necromancer would most likely have 3 specs, and this is where the exciting part begins. The first spec could be a fusion of arcane spells and shadow-based abilities. Now arcane, we have what? Arcane mages and boomkins that use arcane. That's about it. So another class that uses arcane damage and abilities would be awesome. But to mix arcane with shadow, I think that would be very unique. Very similar to how original Necromancers were born. There were mages in Kirin Tor, and they turned to necromancy. They still have the potential potential to use arcane arts, but they're also now integrating this shadowy undead spells. I feel like that would be awesome. The second spec of a Necromancer could be a pet summoning class that doesn't actually have a permanent pet. It's not like a Beastmaster Hunter or an Holy Death Knight. You're still a caster, but you summon momentary undead, maybe like undead to create a wall with their bodies, or maybe undead to jump on an enemy to stun them for a short moment. Stuff like that. So undead themed spells, but you're still a caster. Instead of just casting shadow bolts, you're basically summoning undead to claw the enemy for a short moment. And finally, the Necromancer could have, get this, the Apothecary class, creating concoctions and oozes inside of vials to throw at their allies to heal their wounds, to let them recover, to rejuvenate them, but also throwing poisons at their enemies. When you take a look at the Death Knight Order Hall and you take a look at the unholy side of the DKs, you see candles lit in rituals, you see concoctions and brews, you see undeads literally put in canisters filled with fluid. And when you go back to Wrath of Lich King areas, you see a lot of that ooze, a lot of that green, but also a bit of magical aspects to the whole idea of what Necromancers really are to be. And as I'm running through Naxxramas all over again, re-exploring this, I'm actually really getting into the idea that a Necromancer could potentially be a cool thing. It's another cloth class to add into the game. We already have mages, priests, and warlocks, so it'll be a fourth cloth class. But hey, we already have 4 for leathers. It's not like we're gonna get a 5th leather. So might as well add something for the plates or for the clothies. Or better yet, male class, which is why we're gonna be talking about the next class, because we need more male users in the game. Now, a pretty popular class floating around the internet is the Dark Ranger. Dark Ranger would be basically similar to a hunter, but with a lot more sinister, shadowy, maybe even dot-based spells, kind of like a hunter and a warlock put together. Very similar how a demon hunter is a rogue and a warlock put together. So Dark Rangers would of course be a very popular class. We've seen a few Dark Rangers with a brand new warfront for Darkshore. We see the Night Elves get converted into undead, becoming the brand new Dark Rangers. So the Dark Ranger would play in very similar to old school Survival Hunter, running around shooting bow, crossbow, gun, whatever it might be, but also has things like Black Arrow or some kind of damage over time while you're using all of your range-based abilities. It could even have something unique, like to a rogue, that how they apply poisons. You could apply different kinds of arrows in your bow or your crossbow, using maybe frozen arrows, searing arrows, poison arrows, shadow arrows, any kind of arrows, and even give the class a possibility to swap out on different types of arrows as you play, to give a little bit more interactive gameplay. It can even take things like from the Elemental Shaman, how Elemental Shamans use a powerful elemental to summon in order to deal obliterating and big damage to enemies. Instead of summoning an elemental, Dark Rangers could actually summon maybe like a shadow beast, like a shadow wolf or a shadow panther, depending if they're horde or alliance, and that shadow wolf or panther could fight for them, very similar to an elemental for elemental shamans. It'd be another one of those mechanics that we simply just don't get to use all that often. We don't have a lot of classes that summon this amazing entity that just has this front-loaded damage all that often as part of a general gameplay. So I feel like something like this to reuse and re-add into Dark Ranger would still be interesting. The only question is, how would Alliance get Dark Rangers? Because of course Dark Rangers are part of the Horde. You have Sylvanas that can teach all these brand new undeads and blood elves to become Dark Rangers, to teach them the dark arts. But for Alliance you actually have Tyrande taking on the spirit of vengeance, which I don't think is a noble spirit. I think it's very similar to what a demon hunter would with fel energies and demon powers. You take those on upon your body as almost like a punishment and then wield it as a weapon. I think that's very similar to what Tyrande is doing right now with the spirit of vengeance. I don't think it's a noble spirit. I don't think it's a noble power in a sense. And I guess in a sense, they could use that vengeance spirit to train their own versions of Dark Rangers for the Alliance to combat the Horde, which for me, lore-wise, would make enough sense to apply. From here on, we're gonna look at some classes that could potentially be a stretch, but personally, I think there's a possibility for them. One of the classes that I think we should consider, which is another male class, maybe an alternative to Dark Rangers, are the Wardens back from Legion. The Wardens make a comeback back in Legion and they're in full swing. They were training troops for the whole of expansion and they've been dormant ever since we came into BFA. As we go into the next expansion, we're probably going to be dealing not with a conflict between Alliance and Horde. Chances are this expansion is going to end with us dealing with some kind of colossal threat that will force us to bring Horde and Alliance together again. Maybe even against the old gods, which is a very good possibility. How I imagine Wardens to be is very much similar to Warcraft 3. Kind of like a combination of a rogue and a mage. If you look at demon hunters, they're like a rogue and a warlock combined together, but not really one or the other, just very somewhat mildly similar. The rogue and the mage combo for the warden I feel like would be very interesting. They could even have a specialization that's like a priest or light of a loon, where they could use loon based abilities to smite their enemies with arcane spells or even heal their allies with holy. They could be almost like a night elf priest, lore-wise, forced to fight the enemy, forced to fight the ongoing darkness, so they turn to be wardens. So you could have like that background of like priesthood, so they could potentially even be healers, like combat healers maybe, because those are a lot of fun, but they could also be fighters at the front lines. Of course, the possibility could be melee DPS, but also a warden tank, someone who just tanks the damage in front of them, maybe dodging and parrying a lot of enemies' attacks, or using the vengeance in order to take the hits for them, at least from time to time. I'm not really fully clear on the details of how wardens might be able to play or what kind of roles they would even go for, but I think they look interesting. I love the armor that they have, and I feel like there's a lot of potential with the warden playstyle. Of course, the warden idea, I'm pretty sure it's in WoW lore unique only to night elves, but could there be possibility in lore, because lore gotta make sense as well, where other races could learn to be wardens? What about troll wardens, or blood elf wardens, or void elf wardens? Could there be more races that could be taught the ways of a warden? I feel like it has a lot of potential because of the way that it'll look, and I feel like they're definitely the underdog. Of course, it would be another class that wears mail, so it would fit the male armor requirement. I don't know, what do you guys think? And fifth class on the list, and this one is the biggest stretch of all of them, but I thought it was actually a really cool idea because of the different aspects that this one could have. They would be called the Dragon Priests. Does anybody remember any of those old school dragons? Nosdormu, Alexstrasza, Ysera, rest in peace. It could be potential that the next oncoming looming threat for World of Warcraft could summon the dragons to band together to train dragon priests to fight against the oncoming darkness. The dragons lost a lot of their power back in Cataclysm, and they've been pretty dormant, pretty quiet for the longest time, except for Ysera, who made their appearance back in Legion. But what is the possibility that the Time Drakes saw the future and the timeline has changed and a new looming threat is arriving, so they decided, you know what, we need to train more denizens of Azeroth in the ways of the dragons and all the dragon different aspects. And that's the exciting part, because every color of the dragons, from the bronze dragonflight, the black dragonflight, the red dragonflight, the green dragonflight, and the blue dragonflight, all of them have a different entity that they embody. The bronze dragonflight is all about the teachings of time and time manipulation. Possible healer, or maybe a tank who will revert any damage they take back to like 5 seconds where their health was. That'd be kind of cool. Or the black dragonflight, which is all about earth. Think Deathwing and his potential of all the abilities that Deathwing could have. Or blue dragonflight, which is all about explosive arcane damage. Or the red dragonflight with life-breathing fire. Not only do you deal fire damage, but you can use that fire to heal allies. Or the dream with Ysera, rest in peace. I feel like because of these different aspects of the dragonflights, the green, the red, the blue, the black, and the bronze, you have all this different potential for different themed abilities that can construct unique specs. You can have a tank, healer, and a DPS if you wanted to. Of course, it would be a range class most likely, unless you're tanking. I'm not really sure what kind of gear would you have. Would you have cloth, leather, plate, or mail? But what if you had a class for whose final form was to transform into a dragon for a short moment, granting allies some kind of a buff or doing an obliterating hit on an enemy? Something that's like a 10-minute cooldown, very similar to the Army of the Dead for the Unholy Death Knight. Something you would use kind of like once in a fight to help your allies, but with a very, very long CD. Because of the variety that you can have with all the different dragonflights, I feel like there's potential for a new class. I feel like the type of different spells and the theme behind it is interesting, at least for me. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. I do hope you enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What out of these 5 classes do you guys think potentially could be as top 5 classes that Blizzard might add in future expansions? And if you guys want to, go ahead in the comments below and make your own top 5 list of 5 different classes you think that Blizzard could potentially add in future expansions for World of Warcraft. Let me know all your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I do hope you enjoyed, and I'll see all of you in the next one.